time to hit social media for cash tags, and for that, we'd like to welcome in Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, and we welcome back Jenny Horn, Fast Market contributor, and we're taking a look at Home Depot.
Home Depot, a stock Kevin's very excited to talk about, aren't you? He was very excited when we
I'm a little more excited than Jenny is, that's for sure.
Quite possibly, but they have earnings before the market tomorrow, and really we've seen the stock on a tear lately. If you look historically over the last couple of years, it's done extremely well. So Andy, does your purchase intent data reflect this at all?
Yeah, I think Home Depot's doing well. You know, what we see when we look at purchase intent data of Home Depot is what we're talking about are people talking about actually shopping at the stores. And so that's capturing the consumer side of the market. I think that probably the contractor side of the market is even more exciting for Home Depot. But when we look at our data, this latest spike that we see in purchase intent mentions really tracks pretty well with the stock. And so what we're saying going into this earnings call, you know, of course, you liked Home Depot a lot more when it was under 200 than probably you do today on this rally. But, you know, we see no reason that Home Depot won't put up a nice number. We think that it's possible that they'll probably, put out earnings guidance that is favorable for the company going into 2020 based on what we're seeing on the consumer side. Again, it really comes down a lot to this is an interest rate sensitive company. They have a large contractor business, which we have no visibility into. And so how they see the housing market is going to be a pretty big deal going into this call. But from the consumer side, we'd say Home Depot pretty strong.
Andy, when the normal investor thinks of retail, they don't naturally go to a firm like Home Depot, right? But it is in essence a fix up your home retailer. And you know, you're right though, they have a big professional business. They almost have two doors, one door for the pros and one door for the retail. But the question is, where do they fall in the retail world? Are they closer to a Walmart, Target, that area, or are they under pressure like a lot of the other types of the retail sector?
Yeah, I think so far they've been immune from a lot of the retail sector pressures, but long term, I'm not sure that's going to play out. We're actually starting to see, significant competition just starting from companies like Wayfair. And so if you think about the cycle of consumer trends, you had malls, go down, you have Macy's now with too much square footage to be able to really deliver good value to its customers, and the online transactions start to win with consumers. I think we're starting to see at least the beginnings of that same type of thing happening in the home improvement side of business with companies like Wayfair. And so it becomes tougher and tougher for Home Depot, I think, on the consumer side to maintain the advantage that it has. So they've got a little bit of an uphill battle in that regard.
Have you ever been on HomeDepot.com?
Jenny, you have not truly experienced pleasure until you have power washed something.
That's
if you have rented a power washer and power washed everything that moves in your house, that is a great way to spend a Saturday.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever done that, but if you go on HomeDepot.com, it's not exactly the most easily navigated site. So I could see why it's failing to Wayfair, which is an awesome website. But our first tweet is from Rob Narrow, who says, as a Lowe's investor, I can see firsthand why Home Depot smashes them on almost every key metric. I can only hope CEO Marvin Ellison gets this culture fixed, stops the focus on new stories, dumb acquisitions, and is overall more Home Depot Marvin than JCPenney Marvin. So we talked about this a little bit before the show, and how do you compare Lowe's to a Home Depot really? Because Home Depot is so much bigger.
I think this is a discussion, Andy, and I know you can get involved in this, that we could go on, this could be its own show, comparing Home Depot to Lowe's, and the fact that Lowe's hired Marvin Ellison. They got him from JCPenney, but he was really a Home Depot executive, is where he grew up.
And I want to get Andy's take on this too, if you could just real quickly elaborate on this, because I think last time we talked about this, Andy, I don't remember if it was you or Megan or Landon, but you guys were kind of saying this isn't as much a Home Depot versus Lowe's anymore, more Home Depot and Lowe's versus these new ones like Wayfair. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I think in terms of growth, that's the case. So, Home Depot and Lowe's are definitely still very dominant in the industry. I don't see that changing in a really fast way, but on the margins, what we're seeing is that the competition is starting to come at them from all angles. And so you think of it, I was watching the Cola Wars on the History Channel last night, which is an amazing documentary about Pepsi versus Coke, and it's kind of the same thing. You had these two battling it out forever and forever, and then all of a sudden consumer tastes change, and there's competition coming from every direction. And I think that's what's happening on the margins with Home Depot and Lowe's. I do think that the tweet is accurate, that Home Depot is just outperforming Lowe's at the moment. And in our data, it suggests that that will continue to happen. I think Home Depot's beating Lowe's, but from a growth perspective, how is housing going? How is the overall consumer sentiment? I think it's going to be tough for either of them to get really big growth until they fix this online e-commerce side of their business.
Do you guys have a feel, Andy, that one is better positioned than the other at all? Home Depot or Lowe's?
Yeah, I think Home Depot is probably better positioned. It's pretty tough on our side because it's also a magnet for a lot of political conversation. So there's a lot to sift through from a data perspective. So we have to be a little bit careful. But I do think that as of right now, Home Depot has a slight advantage over Lowe's.
There was an odd number of political tweets, now that you mention it, which I was kind of surprised at with these companies. But our next tweet says, Home Depot by me has fully redone the checkout area. Only one cashier at a self-checkout and the rest are all self-checkout. Probably going to see huge margin ramp from then. Anybody else seeing this? So even though I don't own a power washer and I'm not power washing on the weekends,
You don't have to own one, you can rent it.
But that's true. I have been to Home Depot and I did notice this, which is really cool because it does feel very self-service. There's not really as many employees, but it's faster to actually check out when it's self-service. And the millennial in me prefers self-checkout every time.
You know what? It's interesting. Even I'm 100, and even I like to go through the self-checkout now. Wherever I go through self-checkout.
Especially if it's one or two items.
Yeah, I never have one or two items, but I mean, I still like to go through the self-checkout and do it myself.
Andy, do you see this at all in your data?
Yeah, I don't know. Not really in the data. I think that a huge margin ramp is a really optimistic view of getting rid of 4 or 5 cashiers at every location. I think that probably this is something like Kevin's talking about, like Jenny, you're saying. This is more of a consumer preference type of thing. It's not necessarily true that every time you check out at Home Depot, you want to get into a conversation about what project you're working on. And so I think that's a lot of the driver for this.
And Andy, though, taking it back to the data here, there has been a little bit of a divergence between the growth in the consumer purchase intent mentions versus the stock performance kind of flattening out and losing some steam over the last couple months maybe here. Does that give you guys any type of a feel going into this announcement?
Again, I think what we're saying going into this announcement is that, Home Depot, maybe the stock, you can make the argument the stock's a little extended. I don't know. I think that the data is strong enough for us to say they're going to put up a solid quarter, and it's very unlikely that they're going to do anything with their guidance unless they raise it. And so from that perspective, I'd say slightly bullish is our lean, but, not going crazy on it.
So maybe even a little neutral really then, Andy.
Yeah, I think that there's probably opportunity. You guys are the experts on this. There's probably opportunity to sell something, some puts or a put spread underneath of the market, that sort of thing. But no way am I going out of the money calls or anything like that.
All righty, good stuff. We'll leave it there, Andy. Thanks for joining us today on this Monday morning, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.